I'm fine.
But welcome to another episode of Talk Smart with
PUGH.
and McCART. Now, this is something different we're doing this year. It's going to be our 12 days leading up to Christmas, where we're going to give you our knockout of the year, domestic fight of the year, international fight of the year, whatever it may be, in the lead up until Christmas. Now, the first one we're doing, Joe, is
We are doing the domestic fight of the year, those British dust up that we love and talk about on the regular podcast. So we're going to do a whole little bonus podcast saying what's the best ones of 2023. And there were a couple of great ones, mate.
there was a couple of great ones, but sometimes when you're at shows, you're at so many shows, Joe, right? I forget. My memory's bad. I think I've been punched in the head too much when I used to scrap. When I used to have put on the gloves, and I think I've been punched in the head too much, and my memory's bad. But one that really stands out for me is Liam Dillon, super featherweight, when he won the British title against Cash Ashfaq. Now, Cash Ashfaq was the heavy favourite going into this one. Liam Dillon's a scaffolder by day, trains at night. It went on full 10 round fight. I think Liam Dillon dropped Cash Ashfaq twice. Both of them were cut, and he got the split decision win against Cash. And it was just a great fight. I think it was a small hall show up in Newcastle. And it was just a fantastic fight. Two guys going at it. Cash Ashfaq showing heart and determination to get up from the knockdowns and the body shots that Liam Dillon was drilling into him. And there was moments when Cash was on top and then Dillon was on top, and it was like if Cash was winning the round, Dillon would steal the round the last minute by putting on the pressure and coming forward his unorthodox style. It was a great little scrap between the two fighters, and that's the one that sticks out for me a little bit. And obviously, I was torn between Samuel Atwee and Mason Cartwright, where I'm going to use that for knockout or whatever in the next category, because that was a fantastic fight in its own right. But the knockout at the end of that, you could that fight alone, Mason Cartwright and Samuel Atwee, that could win two categories. That could be win domestic fight and possibly knockout of the year as well. But I think it's only fair that we limit them to one.
Look, I think where we go to so many small hall shows and we probably forget more fights than we remember because we see so many fights. So it's important to say that we can't remember / see every single British fight this year. So let us know in the comments any little gems that we're missing out. But I've got to give a mention to one that happened very recently, and it's CJ Challenger versus Jack Martin. Jack Martin's just comes for wars every single time. He had one that could have been domestic fight of the year earlier on year against Shaquille Day. But this fight against CJ Challenger was, well, I want to say the Southern area version of Gatty Ward. That's what I'm going to say.
That's a
Referee
big statement, Joe.
McDonald,
That's a big statement.
mate, I've got to say it. I was there. It was horrific to watch and brilliant at the same time. Like I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Like it was what a fight. Ref Marcus McDonald just tweeted yesterday or at time of recording and said it's in his top 5 fights he's ever refed, and he's been refing 35 years. So that is some fight. So if you can watch that, it's a top tiers YouTube channel, I think, and watch CJ Challenger versus Jack Martin. But it is hard to argue with Antwi Cartwright, and I'm sure we will talk about that in a different episode because of the knockout. But what you got to remember is, Addy, all the way up until that knockout, what a fight it was.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when, like, again, I keep beating this drum and I keep saying it, when you get two British fighters fighting for that British title, you're almost guaranteed a war because it just means so much. I think every young amateur coming out the amateur ranks, when they step foot into the pro ranks, their immediate target, their immediate goal. I know they've got dreams of becoming world champion, right? But that's a goal way into the future. You need to work hard to get there, and only a few fighters get there. So their immediate goal is that British title. And when you get two fighters from Britain fighting for that British title, it just means everything to them, and that's a guaranteed. And I mean it, and I'm being deadly serious when I say it. Guaranteed drama and a great fight. And we've seen it. Not even just a British title, an English title. The Celtic title, sometimes up here in Scotland, when we get young guys fighting for the Celtic title, it's the world. We've seen them drop to their knees well, just an English title and a Celtic title, how much it means to them, and we're going to guarantee the war. And like I said to you, I've been racking my brain trying to figure out the domestic, and it was a toss up between Samuel Atwee and Mason Cartwright and Liam Dillon and Cash Ashback for me. And I think I'll give it to Liam Dillon because I like Liam's story. I like the fact that he's a scaffolder. I like the fact that he fought on Saturday, got the train home on Sunday, was back to work on Monday with his British title. That sort of stuff to me just just really gets to me. That epitomizes boxing for me. A hard working, it's a working man sport. It's a hard sport to get involved in. Only 3-4% of boxers make it to the top where they're earning millions of pounds, and the Joshuas, the Tyson Furies, the I don't know, like maybe the sort of guys, the Boatsis and the Anthony Yards, the Josh Taylors. I know Josh has done very well. The Conor Benns. There's a small pool. You talked about your domestic fight there in the top tier promotions.
Mm.
Listen, there wasn't televised. There wasn't a big network, but they put on a show. Do you know what I mean? Worthy of televised to be televised. Do you know what I mean? So I just think that Liam Dillon, the fact that his story and winning that British title, scaffolder by day, boxer by night, I just love that. I just love a hard working man getting his fruits from his hard work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And from kind of one extreme to what we're talking about with the small hall, but big challenges, big titles, to all the way to the top, I think you've got to give a mention to Lee Wood and Josh Warrington just for the
Oh,
drama that
yeah.
contest as two Brits, one former world champion, one current world champion, going at it, and kind of one fighter realistic dominating the fight, and just a key example of how one punch can change everything. So you've got to give props to Lee Wood and Josh Warrington. That could be in the conversation. And then I look at fights like Sam Gilly versus Louis Green for the Commonwealth title. That was at York Hall. That was on Sky Sports. So it's kind of best of both worlds when we're talking about big time and small hall there. That was absolutely fantastic. I think you was at Cyrus Patterson versus Chris Jenkins. That's
Yeah,
another great
that
fight.
was another great fight. That was an absolute back and forth, and that was one of them ones where the towel got thrown in from Gary Lockett for Chris Jenkins. You're almost like, really? Because it was just a good scrap. But we all know health is wealth.
Mm.
And I'm glad that guy did chuck it in. But sometimes when you see it and it's just a back and forth, and both fighters, they never took a backward step. None of them held, none of them huddled in Patterson and Jenkins. It was just gloves up, bang, 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 shot, 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 trading leather, the way boxing should be. And it's unfortunate that we're going to get a loser, and that's just boxing. Do you know what I mean? And I just think that those type of fights, though, shorten your career quickly. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just an absolute war. Both of them cut and heads going in. It was just a fantastic fight. Cyrus Patterson. Obviously, he went on to fight. He lost his last fight, didn't he? Down in Birmingham, I believe it
Yeah,
was.
against Conor Walker.
Conor Walker, yeah. So there you go. That was another good fight in itself as well. So there's been a lot of good fights here in the UK, and I just think that 2024 with these young guns coming through. We've got some young talented fighters that are coming out the Commonwealth Games and the GB squad, and like for example that Giorgio Fisioli, man.
Yeah,
Oh,
quality.
I like him. I like him a lot. I really, really like him. He's a handsome young man, but he can punch and he's vicious. And I spoke to a young guy up here called Nelson Birchall, who's another young guy who looks the part. So these young guns that are coming through, they'll be in 2024 gunning for that British title. And we're going to be on this next year, maybe doing our 12 days to Christmas and talking about them. So the future's bright for these domestic fighters coming through aiming for that British title. And like I said to you, that British title is a world title for these guys. And I cannot wait until 2024 for more and more of these fights.
Yeah, like no matter what happens at world level, no matter what happens in boxing with politics and everything, I think every year you always get one or two just great domestic fights where kind of politics do go out the window. And we've seen it this year with the fights we just mentioned. Samuel Anthony Cartwright, just absolutely fantastic. And I think we're going to put some polls on the old YouTube community and across our socials. So make sure
Yep.
you do get involved with these for the next 12 days. We started with domestic fight of the year. probably keeping it at home, keeping it across the British Isles, and then we're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm sure we'll probably end up with Fighter of the Year or World Fight of the Year. But just to confirm, before we finish today's bonus episode, Andrew, what are you going for as your domestic fight of the year?
Liam Dillon and Cash Ashfaq. And like I said to you, sometimes it might have not have been the drama where and both fighters were drastically hurt and they came back. But the story of Liam Dillon and Cash Ashfaq, I believe, was aiming to be the first British Pakistani to win the British title since Amir Khan. I can't remember, or something along them lines. I can't remember. So there was a story there, and there was a story with Liam Dillon being the scaffolder and working all night. And the fact that Liam Dillon, he was just when I interviewed him, he was just a humble young man, thanking me for interviewing him after he won the British title. And I'm like, no, 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 thank you for giving me
Yeah.
the interview. Do you know what I mean? He's just a nice guy. And the fact that he won it and how much it meant to him. And talk about Sam Gilly having a mention in this against Louis Green. He was there in his corner. So obviously he's a stablemate of Liam Dillon. So yeah, Liam Dillon gets the shout with Cash Ashfaq. Two great fighters, put on a great show in Newcastle because both of them aren't from Newcastle, but the Newcastle crowd loved it. So fair play to the pair of them. That's my pick for domestic fight of the year.
Yeah, great fight, Andrew. I'm still so stuck, but I think I'm going to have to go with CJ Challenger versus Jack Martin. Could have a little bit of recency bias, but when this amount of people are talking about it, and yeah, I urge you all to watch it. If not, we're going Anthony Cartwright. But as we did say, I think Anthony Cartwright will be spoken about in tomorrow's episode, which is KO of the year. But once again, shout out to all these British guys having big domestic dust ups. As we said about Cyrus Patterson, Chris Jenkins, Sam Gilly, Louis Green, absolute pearl of a body shot in that fight. Wow, Sam Gilly can really go to the body, and he's always in fantastic fights. Wood Warrington, kind of, they set the precedent because he's so high up there.
So we've still got maybe Wood Warrington too. We've got
Yep.
Aziz Bouatsi.
Yep.
I mean, we've got some good fights to look forward to that if they happen in January, February time, and we're doing this in December next year, we need to keep this in the memory bank and don't forget about them because they might
Yeah,
happen.
we'll have to write it down for this
Yeah,
year.
we'll have to write this down, get a notepad and write them down because these things, well, we're talking Wood Warrington might happen in May, but Aziz and Bouatsi, that's happening very early next year, isn't it? So we better, if that turns out to be a barnstorm, we better put that in the memory bank, put that on a memory card somewhere and remember it because I think that one's going to be one to remember.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the variations of British fights that we could have next year, we spoke about it in a podcast about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Even if it's not Wood Warrington, it could be Cordina Wood, which is just as appetizing. Jordan Gill has just announced himself on that stage now. So British fights for big titles next year. But guys, make sure you get involved in this 12 Days of Christmas, reviewing all the best of the boxing for 2023. First episode done. Domestic fight of the year. Make sure you let us know what you thought was the domestic.
Leave a comment, let us know.
Did we miss any out? Are we being absolutely stupid? Because we probably are being, Andrew. Yeah, probably. But yeah, let us know. Get in touch, and we got 11 more days of this, Andrew. So we got better put our thinking hats on, mate.
Oh, Joe, you're putting pressure on me, young man. Right, let's do it. What's the next one tomorrow? What are we doing tomorrow?
Tomorrow, KO of the year, a big one tomorrow.
Boom!
Big KO of the year.
I'm on it. I'm on it.
Go.
Listen, Joe.
See you tomorrow, mate.
I'll see you soon.
I'm fine.